Welcome to Mi Ka'amcha Yisrael in Parashat Vayeshev. When Yosef HaTzaddik becomes the custodian of Potiphar's home, his greatest test arrives, Potiphar's wife, relentless in her attempts to seduce him. Day after day, the pressure arises until the Torah highlights a particular moment, Vayihi Kayom, Hazeh, on a uniquely dangerous day. Chazal debate what it means that Yosef came la'asot malachto, to do his work. One view, he simply arrived to fulfill his house duties, and the other, more sobering, Yosef had been worn down. After so much isolation, emotional abandonment, temptation, he was about to give in, and at that very moment, the window fills with light. A vision appears to him in the visage of Yaakov Avinu, his father, his destiny. Yaakov warns him, if you give in now, you'll lose your place amongst the Shivatim, the foundation stones of Am Yisrael. And that single image saves Yosef. Consider the reality. A 17-year-old boy, alone in an immoral society, far from home, no support, yet he withstands the greatest temptation. How? Because Yosef carried Yaakov with him. A Roman noblewoman once asked Rabbi Yosef ben Chalafta how such strength is possible, and he answered that Yosef drew upon the power of his father's spiritual currency that protected him. But Yaakov Kamenetsky explains, this isn't an exclusive power reserved for Yosef. Every father can earn that type of presence if he builds a relationship so rich with love and admiration and kavod that his child would never want to betray it. The Gemara in Chagigah describes a person who views his Rebbe as a malach Elokim, an angelic feature. A father can earn the same status and the same structure in the eyes of his children. Yaakov Avinu appeared in Yosef's window. This is the deepest lesson of chinuch. We must become so noble in our children's eyes that in their moment of nisayon, they instinctively say, I could never do this to my father. Yaakov's image will not suddenly appear before our children unless we have worked hard to earn that place in their hearts. And when a father becomes a malach Hashem to his children, his very presence protects them. His honor becomes their conscience, his love their moral strength. And as we raise children in a world flooded with distraction and temptation, our mission is clear. Live in a way that ensures our children feel in their hardest, quietest, loneliest moment, how could I ever let my father down by giving into this? And perhaps the greatest gift a parent can give a child is the strength to withstand the test that has not yet arrived. We see this power again, not in a palace in Egypt, but generations later in the heart of Europe. In Berlin, a city of intellect, culture, and wealth, there lived a prominent Jewish banker. He was refined, respected, and he believed deeply in his own success. He had everything a person could dream of, booming business and a precious jewel and only son. And one day, his world was shattered. The boy was struck with a mysterious, devastating illness, and his life literally hung in the balance. Top physicians were summoned. Medical giants examined him. Every treatment exhausted. Every expert defeated. And the tycoon banker and his wife, accustomed to controlling life, were now helpless spectators, watching their child's breath grow weaker. Yet a father never stops fighting. He searched Europe for anyone who could rescue his son from the darkness that was closing in. Then a spark of hope. A friend whispered, in Poland, in Sanz specifically, there's a holy Rebbe, the Divrei Hayim. People say he can bring salvation where medicine sees only impossibility. A banker, polished and rational, traveled to a Hasidic tzaddik. His pride argued, but the father's heart overruled. He traveled to Sanz. He entered the Rebbe's simple room, so unlike his Berlin palace, and poured out his soul, trembling, Rebbe, my only child, please help me. The tzaddik looked into him, not at him, and deep into the hidden chambers of his Jewish heart. Then he asked questions the banker didn't expect. Do you keep Shabbat? The banker lowered his eyes. No. How about kashrut? No. How about family purity, tarat mishpacha? Silence. The Rebbe spoke softly, but with eternal truth. If you don't care for the foundation of the Jewish life, what is there for me to build a salvation on? Except these three pillars, Shabbat, Kashrut, and Tarat HaMishpacha, and then I can lift my eyes to heaven for your son. The man's face tightened. His business empire throughout Germany opened fully on Shabbat. A lifetime of habits and comfort stood in the way. He thanked the Rebbe and walked out. Back home, doctors repeated their crushing prediction, prepare for the end. His wife pleaded with him. She said, our wealth, our status, what are they worth if the cost is our child's life? Yet he hesitated. Faith demands sacrifice. and he wasn't used to sacrifice. Then came the awful night when the doctor said they could no longer promise he would see him in the morning. That broke him. He ran to the telegraph office, his hands were shaking, and he sent a message racing across Europe. Rebbe, I accept everything. Every bank closed on Shabbat. A kosher home, family purity. Rebbe, just save our son. And in that very hour, the decree shifted. The boy's breathing normalized. His fear disappeared. The very child on the edge of the grave rose alive, whole, and radiant. Not just a medical recovery, a heavenly reversal. And a short time later, the banker returned to Sanz, this time with tears of fear, but of joy. He carried a large sum of money, his way of saying thank you. He placed it on the Rebbe's table. A pidyon nefesh, so to speak, a redemption for my son's life. But the Divrei Chaim shook his head and said, I don't trade in salvation. If heaven showed kindness, thank Borei Olam. My role was only to cry for a fellow Jew. No payment, no glory, just pure love of a child of Kutchu Baricho. The banker and his wife became ultimately Torah-devoted Jews. Berlin watched in astonishment as the couple who once chased luxury tycoons now chased mitzvot with a fiery sincerity because a father was willing to become his child's link to heaven. Ladies and gentlemen, Yosef HaTzaddik stood alone in the filth of Mitzrayim. A 17-year-old boy, no family, no support, no reminders of home, yet one image saved him. Not a pasuk and not a sefer, a father. Yaakov's face appeared in the window and seemed to whisper, my son, you are better than this. And in that second, Yosef remembered who he was and whose son he was. We often think of our children, they're not paying attention to us, but every private choice we make, every drop of integrity etches itself deep inside them. We're building the very window that will one day save their lives, because a moment will come, a crossroad with no witnesses. And what will appear then? A father who surrendered to comfort, or a father who sacrificed for truth? Will they sigh and say, how could I disappoint my father? Or Bar Minan never think of us at all. We can't fight our children's battles, but we can give them the strength to win. Live so that your image, your dignity becomes their shield when temptation strikes hardest. So that in that hardest moment, they pause and they say, my dad believes in me. My dad's counting on me. And then they rise. May Borei Olam grant us the wisdom to become those parents whose very presence in the hearts of our children is the greatest Torah lesson we ever teach. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. Shabbat shalom u'mivorach.